come back and grab one of each of them.
Bless you.
I'm sorry.
And then I have a sign-in sheet, I think. I'm just gonna put that here too. So if you want to come back, sign in. Are you a pen?
Yep, I've got two. Sorry.
Thank you. Sign in next page. Your name's not there, you can just add it on the second page.
Oh, you already got it. Yeah. You already updated it. You're all set. Thank you. The PowerPoint? Did you update it? Oh.
Lindsay must have.
Oh, okay. I was like, jeez.
Mm-mm.
You're ready. Okay. Cool. Okay. Is that too dark for you guys up here? No.
I'll start off that way.
Yeah. It would. It's,
I think it's more so whenever it gets to like the map and being able to see your paper.
cool.
We'll give it just a minute or two, right at 9 o'clock, but you know how traffic and parking can be. I guess this time of day, parking for students isn't bad, right? It is for us. I like to park over by, like right here by Poyo. And if I get here past like 8:35, it's already full. That's what happened today. I pull in and I'm like, man. It's always that thing where like someone's leaving as you're going in, you're like, that means there's no stops. I had to go all the way around to the front by the library.
I apologize, my allergies are the worst today.
It's okay. I know you feel like right now you need to say that. Like last night in class, I kept sneezing and I was like, I promise. That's the only symptom I have. My eyes are really itchy and I can't stop sneezing. That would be pollen,
I think it's allergies.
not coronavirus. I have a lot of people in my class with like masks on and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I see a lot of people wearing masks around me.
The masks don't really help unless like you're actually sick.
Yeah, that's what they were saying
Mhm.
yesterday in the document. There was like, see, Mom.
And even then, they're saying those paper masks aren't worthwhile for this particular virus because I guess it's small enough that it can get through.
Eyes and
It needs they want the ones with like the ventilator kind of thing.
It's a small ventilator.
Does it? Is that what that is?
I don't know. I was using this thing so
It's a
many times.
fancy one, though.
It's so cute.
It is cute, actually.
I got 4. This is probably the only one that fits.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my eyes are so like burny and itchy.
Mine, all like over the weekend, every time I went outside, my eyes would just start watering. I'm like, well, there goes all my makeup.
I need to mow the grass this weekend.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the worst. And I woke up this morning, my eyes are so red.
That only happens when I actually like when I go outside.
Well, and that because of my LASIK, it kind of dries them anyway. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. How many of you have come to the opening session before? Is anybody? Okay, good, because usually I'm like, it's gonna be the same thing again. You can go for a little bit. So the day is going to be, we have an opening session, and then today is math. We actually did a flip-flop, because normally we do the English and reading first on the first day, bless you, and then the math on the second. Today, this time we're doing math first day, and then tomorrow will be the English language reading and essay. So we'll introduce ourselves first.
I'm Jordan. You guys probably all have received emails from me and everything. So I help coordinate the boot camps. I'm also like the point of contact for all of the FTCE resources that we offer in the College of Education. So if you are looking for any more preparation materials or assistance, feel free to email me. We do have one-on-one tutors for the reading, English language skills, and the math. So if that's something you're interested, like additional tutoring in a one-on-one setting, email me. I can give you their information. After the bootcamp, I'm also going to be adding everyone to this FTCE learning community. It's a Canvas course. It's not like a class. It's not a course, but essentially it's kind of like home to resources, frequently asked questions, like how do I register, all that type of stuff. And it's also a way for me to communicate with you guys. If I notice any like updates on the GKT or anything like that, I communicate that way. So.
And then how many of you plan to come tomorrow? Okay, so tomorrow you'll meet Owen Robertson, who does the reading, and he, as Jordan said, he's also the person who does the tutoring for the reading English language skills. And then you'll meet Lindsay if you haven't already met her. She does the English language skills and the essay tomorrow. So here's the schedule. This first part from 9 to 9:45. So we believe that there's 2 parts to preparing for this test. One of them is obviously the content. So learning the content, and that's what we're going to do the rest of the day, talking about the math, learning the math, reviewing the math. And then the other part we think about is your mindset going in. So how many of you right now, your mindset is, well, what is your mindset right now about the test? Afraid. Also afraid. Nervous. Putting it off, don't want to do it. So we're trying to, obviously we can't wave a magic wand and say, just because you think positively, you'll be able to pass the test. But we want you to start kind of thinking about your mindset and your abilities and how you kind of believe about yourself and your abilities, and try to change it. How many of you have heard of growth mindset? The concept of a growth mindset. So there's the concept of a fixed versus a growth mindset. Fixed mindset, people think, can't change anything. I am who I am. Things are absolutely how they are. Nothing can be changed. Growth mindset, people believe I can learn. I can improve. I can do something even though I haven't been able to. So that's what this opening session is about, is trying to get you to think about your mindset. And then we'll have breakout session 1 from 10 to 12:30. We'll be in here until 12:30. And then we're actually, it'll be on the last slide, we're actually going to the education building for the afternoon. So this afternoon, after our break from 12:30 to 1:30, will be in EDU 317. And I'll tell you that at the end again. And at the end, you picked up an assessment back there when you picked up all the materials. If you would do us a favor, that assessment, it says intro session on the top. You're actually going to get another one for the math in a little bit. That one's about this session. If you just give us some feedback about what you think, what you suggest, what you liked, what you maybe would change, at the end, we'll pick those up from you. Okay, perfect. So I want you to think about these statements up here. And I want you to kind of think about, if I were to write the word true on this wall, this is the true side, and that's the false side. I want you to visualize where you would see yourself on that continuum for these three things. So take a second, read them, think about it for a second, and think, if I were on a continuum, because not everything is like absolute. It's not an absolute this, absolute that. It can be for some people. But I mean, think about it. If this was true and that was false, where would you put yourself on these three statements? So take a second and read those to yourself and think about it. So what about the first one? I'm not going to make you get up and move. How many of you don't like that, like in a class, and they're like, okay, we're going to get up and move around the room. You're like, no. Or they're like, we're going to get into groups. And you're like, no. Like, number up, and then you get to get into groups. We're not moving. But I want you to visualize if you were to move. On that first one, you can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are. Where would you be? Would you be at the true side? Would you be at the false side? Maybe in the middle? What do you think? Now, this is you personally. This is not collective view. So everyone can have a different answer.
False.
You say false? You can learn new things, but you can't really change how. Who said that?
Yeah, false.
So you think your intelligence is fixed, can't change.
I should change my mind.
Okay.
True.
True. So why do you say true?
I feel like everybody is smart in their own way. Because like everybody's good at different stuff. So you can always learn.
Say that again.
You can always learn.
You can always learn new things. Okay. What else? What else do other people do? What do you think? True or false? You can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are.
A little book.
Let me see.
Oh, gosh.
What is a little? It's not a beetle, which is what I'm like, nope, it looks like it might fly. What do you think?
I think that intelligence can, like, it does grow, like, as we grow. For example, if kids are tested for, like, gifted programs, I know that in America it's less accurate because we tend to test, like, by the end of second grade, if not, like, way sooner. Whereas our, like, IQ isn't more, like, stable or reflective of what it will be until, like, third grade. So I know it changes then because of something.
Okay.
So I think it could change later too.
So yeah, and I mean, even now, like you, and if you think about intelligence, yes, the IQ is how we measure intelligence. But if you just think about your knowledge and how your knowledge can increase with learning new things. And they always say, you know, one of the best ways, like for elderly people, to try to offset Alzheimer's is to continually make your brain work. So they say do like, you know, word finds or crossword puzzles or, you know, Sudoku and things like that to just keep your brain moving, keep those synapses like firing in there. So yeah, you can learn new things. What about number 2? Only a few people will be truly good at blank. So put it in whatever you want. You have to be born with it. What do we believe? So true, only a few people will be good at something. You have to be born at it. Or false. Nobody? Anything?
False.
False. So why do you say false?
Because you can train yourself to be good. Like if you, for example, like some people are born to play baseball, but you can also practice and be coached to learn baseball and other sports or activities and stuff like that.
Do we agree with that? So you think about, yes, some people do maybe have a natural ability or natural based on maybe their body shape or their genetics or whatever it is, but other people can learn. You know, you can practice. And if you look at, like, say, Lindsay always uses LeBron James as an example. Do we agree LeBron James is a pretty good basketball player? So he, you know, he's very tall, very large wingspan, you know, so he naturally has a body for basketball. But if you read things about LeBron James and how much practice he puts in and how much practice he's always put in to hone that natural ability he has. So put in the word math. How many of you have said to yourself at any point in time, I'm just not a math person? Okay, I don't want you to say that anymore. That is a fixed mindset. That is saying to yourself, no, I'm not going to get it because I'm just not a math person. Now, you maybe aren't like excited about math, but that doesn't mean you can't learn it. That doesn't mean you can't succeed in math. Maybe the math back when you were in middle school, which is what the GKT math is, maybe you struggled with it back then and that's what kind of that mindset came from. We're going to move that today because your brain is different today. Your brain is much different today than when you were 13. Your brain has developed and it can open up new things. So I want you to kind of start thinking not that way. I always tell a story. I used to teach math. That's why I do the math one. I was a middle school math teacher. And I had a kid the first day of school. We had, you always the first day of school, you go in and we have them say their name and something about them. And then the next person has to say their name and something about them. And then say everybody's name from before them. And by the end, like, what's your name? I think? Molly. So by the end, Molly would have to say every single person's name in the room. Which, when I taught sixth grade, they didn't all know each other. They didn't all come from the same elementary school. So that was cool because they got to know each other. But more it's a trick for teachers because we're like, the whole time you're like, because, as a teacher, as soon as you know their names and you can point them out and say their names, you have so much more power than if you were just to always be like, so the kid in the front, oh, okay. And then, so as soon as you know your names that first day. So I had gone through in the sixth grade again, and I was almost halfway through the room, and a boy comes in the room. Very, very tall, large boy, especially sixth grade. Like he had to have been, he was taller than me. Like he had to have been like 5'10", 5'11", big kid in sixth grade. So he walks in, and I was like, I'm like trying to be peppy and excited for them. I'm like, hi, welcome. This is what we're doing. We're saying your names and blah, blah, blah. So he sits down and he goes, I'm Jeremy, like low voice. I was like, whoa. Jeremy started puberty years ago. I'm Jeremy, and I hate math. And I was like, but I on the spot, I was like, you know what, Jeremy? This year, I'm going to turn that hate to tolerate. Just thought of it on the spot. So, but by the end of the year, that kid actually came up to me and said, okay, Miss Ricky, I don't hate math anymore. I just don't really like it. So I was like, yes, I got something out of it. But Jeremy came in with like, I'm not going to do any math. But he was one of those kids that like years later, I had his brother and his ex-brother. Oh, Jeremy talked about it all the time and how he finally understood something in your class. So stopping yourself with that like, that's not a math person. Well, don't do that anymore. You're putting a block on yourself of saying, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to fail this because I don't know it. No, you're not going to fail this. Maybe you weren't a math person, but so I always like the idea of growth mindset. She uses the word yet a lot. So you're not a math person yet, but you can be. Okay, what about number 3? People who study a lot are not as smart as others. So again, do we think true? People that study a lot are not as smart as others, or false? People that study a lot are smarter than others, or the smart people. False. Why do you think false?
Yeah, like I said, for everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So my brother is better at math than I am, but he's weaker in like language and grammar skills, so he has to study that a bit more so he understands it. So I don't think it's false.
But it doesn't make him less smart.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Especially in college. So it's interesting when we've asked these two groups of like middle school kids that have come through. Their responses are almost the opposite of what you guys are saying. They would say on number 3, those people that study a lot are the ones that need to study. So they're not the smarter people. Once you get to college, the smarter people are the ones that are studying the most because they're wanting to improve.
I've read them a lot. Part of that is like a cultural thing. So part of that has to do with like America, as opposed to like one of the books that I was reading. When she took her kids to like China and Japan, the biggest thing she noticed about the schools between here and there were the attitudes. And that over there, you're like cool if you're like smart and you study and you pay attention. But here, it's like you have to be like too cool for school. And it's kind of like a mindset that our culture actually deals with.
I would agree. I feel like it's very unfortunate too, you know. You've got a lot of smart people in that room that aren't going to speak up because they don't want to be the nerd and the bookworm and the person that's, you know. Now we have an all-female group right now. Unfortunately, it happens a lot with girls too, like going through school. Girls don't want to be that, you know, I'm going to raise my hand about everything and I'm going to answer everything, especially when it gets into the maths and sciences, unfortunately, in the STEM fields. There is a very, very, very distinct like amount of people, men in the STEM fields versus women. And I think a lot of times it's girls going through school, it's a social thing. You're afraid to look like something else. And you know, when we were in high school and things like that, everybody wants to be different, yet everyone wants to be the same at the same time. You know, you don't want to like stand out, but you also do want to. So it's interesting, but I agree, it's a cultural thing. So I think when it gets to college, like people are like, you know what? This is my life. Like you can finally be yourself and be who you are. And then we have some data from the tutoring center. They say the average GPA of people who seek out tutoring is a 3.6. So those are the smart people that are wanting to improve and change. All right, awesome. We have a little video.
Oops. Okay. Well, you know what? There we go. Hold on.
If the sound doesn't work, it's okay. We'll figure. First, do we know who this is? John Legend. Okay, so he's gonna
Let's try again.
talk about kind of his path and thinking about in terms of a growth mindset. So
Let's try again.
The thing is, every successful person you know has failed at what they love to do before. I've been unsuccessful in my career. You just didn't know about it because I wasn't famous yet, and I was trying to be famous. I was trying to get a record deal for 6 years, and I kept getting turned down. And any successful person you know, even though it seems like everything just happened for them, it usually was preceded by a bunch of failure, or at least a significant amount. But the great ones aren't the ones that don't fail. They're the ones that learn from their failure and they keep going and persistent and tenacious. And for me, I was trying to get a record deal from 98 to 2004 and got turned down by every major record label, including the one I'm signed to now. And for me, that means that even when you hear no, you have to keep going through all those no's until you get to yes. And with learning something new, I think it's the same principle. When I was younger, I didn't really know that you could just get better at things. Because I think we're so used to the idea that you're talented at something and it's sort of fixed, you know, the idea that, oh, he's just a good singer, you know. And even with singing, I've gotten better at singing as I've gotten older. I wasn't singing in a way that was sustainable and I wasn't breathing right. I wasn't doing a bunch of things correctly. I realized that there was a ceiling that I couldn't crack through unless I actually studied and worked under a coach to get better. And this idea that things are just fixed is proven not to be the case. You can get better at things, you can grow. And even people that are innately talented still need to go beyond that basic talent that they have and cultivate it.
So it kind of sums up what we were just talking about. You know, someone like John Legend, who now has become very, very successful in a lot of different areas, had to struggle, had to practice. He was denied for 6 years from record labels trying to get that. But that's some tenacity that he has because he kept trying, and he didn't give up. So I hope you kind of start to think about what your mindset is and sort of open up your mind to think, okay, I can do better. And again, it's not a magic wand. I can't say to you, just because you believe you will be successful. No, but going in with that mindset of like, okay, I can do this is better than going in with the mindset of like, it's not going to pass. Because you don't want to do that. And then you get that anxiety and things like that. So a little bit about the test. I think knowing not only the content, but also just knowing what to expect. How many of you have never taken the GKT? Okay, so we've got all new mostly. Okay, so for the GKT, you know, it's $130. There's 4 subtests. You can split them up if you want. You don't have to take them all in the same day. They've now broken it up. It's $32.50 a section, so you can take them separately, and you can take them different days if you want. So if you said, I'm going to take the essay and English language one day, and then I'm going to take the math and reading another, or whatever it is, you can split it up. So keep that in mind, because you can see how long it is. You have an essay for 50 minutes, 40 multiple choice English language skills for 40 minutes, 40 minutes for 55 minutes for 40 multiple choice reading, and an hour and 40 minutes for 40 questions for math. If you add up all those, it's a little over 4 hours. It's a long test. It's a long time to sit at a testing center. So you can break it up if you'd like. It is a test where, yes, it's timed. Once you finish a section, you can go on to the next one, though. So it's not like when you took the SAT on paper and you had to sit there and wait. That was always so frustrating, because they were like, you can't even have a book. And you're like, oh, I'm just going to sit here. So you can move on to the next one. So it could be less than the time, but if you take the maximum, it's over 4 hours long. I want you to kind of look at the percentages. So it's pass, fail, and this is what you need to pass. And if you pass, all it says is pass. We don't know what you got. So on the math, if you pass it, we don't know if you got 100 or a 72. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we get with everybody for the math, because we might have some additional people coming that have come to this session before. But I want you to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. A lot of people going into education tended to be good students themselves. We knew how to do school. We were good at school. And then you have the others that maybe struggled and they have a teacher that maybe motivated them to become a teacher, and that's another reason. But a lot of people, you're hard on yourself in terms of grades. So say you got something back and you got a 92. What's the first thing you might do?
Look at the problems you got wrong.
Look at what you got wrong. We're not okay with getting an A. I'm like, why didn't I get 100? Where did that go? Well, I want that out of your brain. Don't worry about that, because 72 is passing. It doesn't matter. You're not going to know. And some people are like, but I want to know what I got. Nope. Sorry. You're not ever going to know. So move that aside. Looking at those percentages, what do you need to pass? Like, what grade are you needing here? A C. So you don't need an A. You don't need a B. You need a C. So kind of take that pressure off of yourself of, I have to get everything perfect, and be okay with just passing and moving on. Because that's all this test is. Pass it, move on. Then you don't have to worry about it. Okay. So this is the actual site. Yeah. If you haven't, does anybody have a test schedule? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if you pass like 3 parts of it and you miss one part, can you retake just the one part, or do you have to retake everything?
No. Good question. Thank you. If you don't pass something, you have to wait 31 days to retake it, but then you only have to retake any sections you pass. And then it's $32.50 a section. Yes.
There's no way that I can like quickly see the scores for the last. Thank you.
And we're going to talk more about the 72% and what that means in a second whenever we have the math session. But yeah.
Is it because it's a weird number?
Huh?
72%.
Yeah, just because I want to talk about like what you have to get right for 72. Okay, so the actual site. So those of you, how many of you have a test already scheduled? Like you have a test coming up. When's your test?
Or maybe, I don't know the number, I forgot.
In May?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you're a ways off. Anybody else?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday, okay. Anybody else? She's the winner of the closest one. I've had people come before and they're like, I'm taking it this afternoon. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, let's do some math and then you can go take it. Okay, so next Thursday. The rest of you, we're going to talk about in a second. You need to get something registered. So here is how you do that. So this is the actual site for the FTCE. I always suggest, if you haven't already done so, is you go on the site and you kind of click around. Click on everything. Take a look at what it is. Like, what do we know about the test? What is the test? How do I register? You register here. What resources are there? Things like that. The scores area is helpful, and it has like a time where it tells you, now it says scores subtest with a performance assessment. The essay is performance assessment because it can take about 4 weeks to grade. So this little chart can actually tell you based on when I'm taking my test. So if I took it right now, my scores would be out March 23rd. So this will give you a deadline. So if you are planning to apply to the College of Education maybe for the fall and your deadline is August 1st, you're going to want to make sure you've taken the test. I would suggest earlier than this, but making sure you've done it in that time frame. So all this kind of stuff is on the website. Under resources, they have a lot of different kind of prep guides and competencies and skills. In the information guide, they actually have a full-length practice test. That is where one of the packets you picked up back there comes from the math one. We're actually going to do the whole thing here during the day. Yes?
When we take the test, since like I'm in the middle of trying to transfer here.
Okay.
And I'm trying to apply for the College of Education for the fall. When I go to take the test, how do I give the scores to the College of Education?
You can, so when you register, you can say you want them to be sent to USF. So everybody should do that, have them sent to USF. But since it's a paper application to the College of Education, we ask that you just attach the PDF score report. So once your scores come in, you'll be able to log into your account on this website, and it's just a PDF, and it shows pass, 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 pass.
And I attach that to my application.
Attach that to your application, yeah. It will show up in your degree works also if you have it sent to USF. It just sometimes has a lag in that, but have it sent to USF so that it can show up in degree works, but you can just attach the paper with it. Good question. Any other questions? Yes.
So where would the tests like be taking place?
So it depends on what address you put in. So when you go to register for it, so you click on register, you actually put in an address during your registration. So you put in the address where you're going to be when you're going to test it.
Okay.
And it says a calendar or a map pops up and it says, you know, these are the closest testing centers, and you pick one. So like USF has a testing center where you can test here.
Good.
Yeah. And then you click on that, and then a calendar pops up, and you pick a date. The test is offered every day except for Sunday. So it's not like the SAT where it was only certain Saturdays a month, things like that. You can get it pretty much any time. Now they do close at 5 o'clock, so I think the last testing time is probably around noon or so. So a lot of people do end up doing Saturday based on school schedule and things like that. But when you register, you'll be able to find the testing centers. They're all over the county, all over the state, actually all over the country. They're at Pearson testing centers. I have people that were home in New York for the summer and took it up there. So it's everywhere. Any other questions about that? Yeah.
It's a little off track, but close to that. When we take the zero knowledge test, this is just certifying us for Florida.
Yes. This is just Florida. You'll actually have 3 tests that you'll take to be certified in Florida, and the general knowledge test is the first one. And then the other 2 tests, the professional of the subject area, you'll take before you finish your program.
So if I was to teach in another state, I would need to take it in that state as well.
It depends on the state. Some states, once you're certified in Florida, have reciprocity with Florida. So then, so you would say, hi, I've got my certification here, and then you can move straight over to that other state. Some states might ask you to take their test. So it just depends on where it is. Good questions. Any other questions? Okay. Let's go back. We'll do this right. Let's click on it. No, that one. Okay. I want you to take a look at the paper you picked up in the back that has the 2 signs. Look at the side with the little circles first. So this first page, the one with the little circles, kind of just shows you some different resources that we have here in the college and at USF for preparing for the test. So it talks about, we have some prep courses, the library has some tutoring, we have tutoring. Again, you can contact Jordan about any of the resources. She can give you information. So this first page is just what resources are there. Hold on to the back. On the back, we have a checklist. How many of you are checklist people? If you like to write things down, so you have it feels so good to cross it off or check it off and be done. That's what this is on the back. It's a checklist. First thing says schedule and register for the general knowledge test. That is your first thing. instead of coming to these boot camps and preparing and reviewing and then doing nothing, register for your actual test. Lindsay always uses this example, but say you're in like a history class. Say you're studying for a test in your history class. You study for that test, and then what happens? You take it, right? You don't study for that test and then take it 3 months from now. So don't do that with the GKT. By you being here today and tomorrow, I look at our boot camps as a good in-person review. And I'm actually going to be sending you homework. You're going to get packets of homework to help you practice at home for more math. So here is a good in-person review, and now you're going to review for another week or two is my suggestion, and then take your test. So don't hold off. Don't come and get all these resources and set them on your desk at home and do nothing about it. Actually prepare and take your test and register. So it's on there, and you put it on a calendar and you hold yourself accountable. Okay, next thing, identify, like I said, accountability partners. So they could be people in here. Notice we left spaces. If you meet someone during the boot camps and you want to say, hey, we're both preparing for this test, let's get each other's numbers and like maybe study together or hold each other. What's it mean to hold someone accountable? I say, I'm going to hold you accountable for this. What does that mean?
Responsible.
Responsible. I'm going to make sure you do it, right? I mean, obviously I can't physically, like, not physically going to move you and make you do it, but I'm going to check in on you. How many of you have had goals, like you do things where you tell people about them? Like you have like a goal. I'm injured right now, but I normally am a runner. I'm a runner and do triathlons, and I'll tell people like, yeah, I'm training for a marathon. I've got a marathon coming up. And sometimes that's motivation because people are going to ask you, like, hey, how's it going? If you're like, oh, I'm training for a marathon, and then they ask you, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't done anything. You know, you kind of hold yourself accountable and people hold you accountable. Same with the GKT. Get each other's numbers or talk to someone you know who's also studying for the test. And what's your name? Paola. So I say we're accountability partners. And I know when she's taking the test in May. And I send her a text. And I'm like, hey, how's the studying going? And she knows in her head, like, ooh, I haven't been studying. Probably should, because I know Deanna's going to check. So that kind of helps her. Or I know, oh, hey, your test system, or good luck. I hope you do great. So you're holding each other accountable to continue to prepare for this test. Third one down, establish some sort of preparation schedule. So the majority of you are in classes right now, right? You're taking classes here at USF or community college or state college or somewhere, right? Taking classes. How many of you have some sort of agenda or like planner or something you use for your classes? And Canvas actually has it for you too. Well, if the professor puts stuff on there. But anyway, so you've got some sort of planner, right? I want you to do that with the GKT preparation. I want you to treat it like it's another class you're in. So I want you to get your test date, and that's like your final exam for the class. And then I want you to work backward. And I want you to say, okay, my test is coming up April 15th. And I'm going to have my taxes done ahead of time so I don't have to worry about that. But then I'm going to have ready to take my test, but I'm going to work backward and I'm going to say, all right, today I'm going to work on English language skills competency 1. This day I'm going to work on math this day I'm going to work on this. So get yourself some sort of schedule. You're all going to be teachers. One thing, when I was learning about becoming a teacher, one of the things we talked about in terms of lesson planning was backward design, was thinking, okay, where do I want my kids to be? And now working backward, how am I going to get them there? Like with math, everything's kind of sequential. So it says like, this is what the final is. Now, how am I going to work backward to make sure that the concepts are learned? Exactly with the GKT. I want you to say, this is my test, and now I'm going to work backward, and I'm going to plan a schedule. Instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to sit down every once in a while and open a book. No, make yourself, this is my class, I have homework, I need to make sure I'm doing it. And then the bottom, just maintain a growth mindset while you're doing it. Try to improve the way you kind of view this test and view yourself as a learner. Try not to be down on yourself. Try not to say, I'm not a math person. Add the yet at the end. I'm not a math person yet. At the end of this, you're gonna send me an email and be like, okay, Dan, I like math. No, you don't have to, but it would be awesome if you did. Some of you actually probably like math, right? How many of you want to teach math? Yeah. Whether it be elementary or middle or high school, yeah, math is fun. But I love math, and I've always loved math. And I always would say, you know what, I was the same way, but on the opposite side, I always say to myself, I'm not a fast reader. I'm not going to do very well in reading comprehension because I'm not a very fast reader. And I went in to take this GKT, and that reading comprehension test was hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not a fast reader. And then as soon as you time me and I have to read those passages and I don't remember what I'm reading and stress myself out. So I had to kind of tell myself, relax, you can do it. It's okay. You'll get through it. And the more practice you get, obviously, I love reading. It's just reading sometimes those technical things are just not interesting. I'm taking a business class right now. Some of the stuff I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about because I don't have a degree in business. I'm just taking a class because it's interesting. I don't know what they're talking about. We're talking about venture capitalism. I'm like, it's money, right? So how does it come? But anyway, practice reading things that you don't normally read. That's my suggestion for reading. But anyway, throughout all of it, maintain that growth mindset of I haven't passed it yet. And don't push the test off. Take it sooner rather than later. How many of you are planning to apply to the College of Ed for the fall? Perfect. So I want you as a goal to take this test by May 1st. All of you. Take it by May 1st. I know the deadline to apply is not until August 1st, but if you take it May 1st, if you think about what if I don't pass something, I have to wait a month to take it again, that gives me June 1st, and then worst comes to worst, it gives me another month if I had to. So take it early enough to where if you don't pass something, you have time. And you take the pressure off. Because if you're applying to the College of Ed by August 1st, and you wait to take your test till July 15th, you're giving yourself one shot. Don't do that. Don't put that extra pressure on yourself. Give yourself some time and a buffer in order to get that. Yes.
So, the admissions want to wait to get to my spring grades before I get like admitted into the school. So should I, since that will be in May, should I even take the test right now?
I would.
Okay.
I go out to, where are you transferring from?
HCC.
So I actually go out, have I been to your class at HCC? Okay. I actually go out into the teaching classes at the community colleges, and I go out, and sometimes it's their first semester. And we say that to students here. How many of you, when you were a freshman, we said, take this test now. I tell them, take it now. It doesn't matter if you're not going to be at USF for 2 or 3 more years. It doesn't matter if you're not applying to the College of Ed for 2 years. Take it now. The test is good for 10 years. So as long as you plan on applying for certification in the state of Florida within 10 years, this test will still be good. So I always say, take it now, even if you are, how many of you are in like your first year? So you're not applying to the College of Ed quite yet, but I want you to take it now. Get it out of the way so it's off your plate, you're not worried about it. So it doesn't hurt to just get it done. Any other questions? Okay. Again, here's our schedule. So we have a little bit of a break from now until 10, and we'll stay in here. If you haven't already, if you'll pick up everything back there, we're going to put another sign-in sheet for the math back there and a different evaluation. Those evaluations did we put it back there? For this session, if you want to fill that out, and Jordan's going to put this in the back and just stick that in there. And then again, this afternoon, we're in EDU 317. So remember that, and we'll remind you before we leave. But if you want to go ahead, fill it up, evaluation out for us, put it in that envelope back there, and then Jordan's going to put out another sign-in for the math.
Does everyone have the evaluation form?
And then we will reconvene in about 20 minutes.
So you said that you can, like, when you take the test, you can move on to the next section. But since everyone is each is time, so does that mean like they are like, oh, we have to read, or is it separate?
They're separated.
Is it like a different room?
No, same room. It's just a different set of tests.
They kind of like take away the first one and give you the other one.
Yeah, exactly. It'll, like, once you finish the reading and you submit the last answer, it'll open up the next test. And then the time starts again. It's not like you get the extra time from the other. Yeah. Too bad if you could run faster, you wouldn't get more time later, but, yeah, so it'll go on, it'll just go on to the next, and there's a break in between the two. You take all 4 in one day.
Oh,
Make sure you've, again, signed in for the math session, which is now,
Yeah, new sign-in sheets back there.
yeah,
for
new
math.
sign-in sheet, and then if,
And new post-session evaluation is also back there. So make sure you grab one of those for the math if you have it, or when you sign in. Does anyone need the schedule up for any longer? All good? Okay, cool.